I'm proud to say I've successfully kept a bullet journal for 3 years now. However, 2020 was a very different year in more ways than one, and my bullet journal was not an exception to that. After spending 3 years of trying to create and perfect a foolproof way to plan my life, I hit major burnout. Despite how beautiful I think some of these spreads turned out, it took me hours trying to come up with the best theme idea and how I could best execute it. And it's no secret I'm not an artist, so these things don't come super naturally to me. It was hard to find ways to work around the fact that I didn't know how to draw as best as I wanted to be able to make my bullet journal look perfect in my eyes. Not only did this lead to creative burnout, but it also drove me to trash my bullet journal for 2020 altogether, simply just as a result of the time it took to come up with these ideas and create them and execute them in a way that I saw perfect in my eyes. Not only did I not want to create, but I also didn't want to plan anything. I didn't set myself up for success during my gap year like I should have, and it resulted in me not having anything to plan for or anything to look forward to in general. And although I didn't use my gap year for what I could and should have, I also learned a huge valuable lesson that filling your time with things that you love to do and things that are important to you is crucial. When my freshman year of college started, I went out and bought myself a standard planner because I didn't want to go back to bullet journaling, as I was afraid of the creativity burnout and the time that it would take for me to do it. However, now that I have all the lessons that I've learned through my gap year and also my first semester of college under my belt, I've realized how valuable creating something that's custom to me and my needs can be. And I've especially realized that not all of these spreads have to be incredibly creative. I mean, they can be those things, but I really desire something that's just going to be flexible with me and my schedule, and that's going to perfectly suit my needs. In 2021, I just wanted to throw away that pressure of having to create something perfectly aesthetically pleasing. At this point in time, I just really want to create something that's going to work best for me and that I'm going to have fun creating no matter what. Back in high school, I would take my bullet journal with me everywhere I went, and I would have people coming up to me telling me how cute my bullet journal was, despite the fact that I didn't think it was cute at all. After having those experiences, I started to really put the pressure on myself to create something that was going to look perfect, no matter how unattainable, unmanageable, and frankly, not user-friendly it might be. And there were pages upon pages upon pages of spreads that I never used, but found on Instagram and thought that they would look great in my bullet journal, and it didn't matter if I wasn't going to use them because it looked good, right? Now that I'm in college, I'm really just desiring something that's going to be functional for me and that I'm going to have fun creating. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to make it cute, because you better believe it's going to be cute, but I'm not going to sacrifice functionality for something that is, quote, objectively cute. Before sitting down to create this bullet journal, I asked myself what spreads I could create that were going to be most useful to me. Something I've always been scared of when it comes to bullet journaling is improvising. It terrifies me because I just know that I'm going to put pen to paper and I'm going to screw it all up. However, like I mentioned before, taking the time to think about the spreads and visualize each and every one of them before I started took literal hours. And in the process of throwing away that pressure to create something that's objectively perfect, I also threw away my fear of improvisation. And I'm proud to say that aside from asking myself which bullet journal spreads would be most useful to me, I did no further planning. Before I created each spread, I merely took a few seconds to visualize what I wanted the functionality to look like and left the design and creativity up to future me. And let me tell you, this was a major relief. It felt so unbelievably good knowing that the spreads I was creating were for functionality over design. And let me tell you, I am not disappointed in the design. I actually think it's really cute because it is so simple, and I was able to relax in the fact that these spreads were going to be incredibly useful for me in the new year. This first spread is a future log, and I wanted to create a Dutch door so that I could reduce the appearance of pages and the flipping that I would have to do in order to see the entire year, and I just wanted to be able to see everything in one entire spread. I opted out of writing the days of the week above the days of the month because it's not crucial to the functionality of the spread, as you really only need to know the days of the month. And like I mentioned before, this spread is really only going to be used for birthdays and big events that I know I'll need to keep track of. I also created a border around my Dutch door because although I'm prioritizing functionality over design, it's always good to have fun with what you're creating, and not spending too much time doing this, I still was able to create something that I think looks cute. Something I'm not willing to sacrifice in this bullet journal is my handwriting. It's something I've prided myself on in past bullet journals, and it takes like 2 seconds, so you better believe I'm adding more of it in this one. As I mentioned before, artistry is not my thing, and trying to freehand everything in my previous bullet journals really ate up my time, so I've decided to use these stencils to maximize my time and still add cute design. Rather than starting off my bullet journal by creating a million spreads for the whole of 2021 that I know I'm not going to use, I decided to get straight to the point and create this semester calendar blocker. To the left of the spread, I wrote numbers 7 to 12 for the hours of the day, and across the top, I wrote Monday through Friday. The idea for the spread is that I'll be able to block out what classes I have on what days and for what hours. I'll also use the colors that I've assigned to each subject, that way whenever I forget which color I've assigned to which subject, because I do all the time, I'll be able to reference the spread. On the page to the right, I created an assignment tracker with the months January through May, which is the whole first semester, and this is where I'll be able to write down all of my assignments, quizzes, tests, and final exams for the semester. No more spreads than what I've already created would be useful to me, so I went ahead and moved on to the month of January. Also, say hello to Hamilton, everyone! Something I love doing is reflecting on the past and seeing what my past goals were and what I actually accomplished and how I succeeded and what I learned and how I failed, and this page took heavy inspiration from that. I thought it would be fun to create something that was going to directly show me exactly what my goals were, what kind of music I listened to, what books I read, how many minutes I worked out for, because, why not? I really love analyzing things, including my own life, and looking back to see what milestones and what I learned and what failures and successes created me, and why I do some of the things that I do today is so cool to me, so I thought I would just make a spread to honor that. You might also notice that I changed up the color for this spread. I opted for a gold as opposed to the taupe that I was using before. Gold has always symbolized something that's new and shiny and exciting to me, so I thought I would honor January and the new year with that color. Choosing a main color for each month is also going to help me focus more on the functionality of each spread, as I won't be very focused on what colors I'm going to use and obsessing over which color combinations work best, and I can just rely on the one color that I've chosen, which again is a relief for me. For the next page, I thought about hopping straight into January weekly spreads. However, I did want somewhere for me to write down what days that I worked and what personal things I have going on in the month of January before it actually happens. That way, when I am writing out my weekly spreads, I have something to reference even for my weekly days. However, I didn't want to take too much time counting out how many boxes I would give myself for each day to write basically a calendar spread. Instead, I decided to use this spread that I've designed and used many times previously in my bullet journals, as it's a spread that's incredibly simple and it's going to be very easy for me to see exactly which days I work and what I have going on in my personal life as far as events go. In my bullet journals previous to this one, I've tried including 2-page or even 1-page spreads for journaling, and I did not want to do that again with this one because in the past, it did not work out. Journaling for me has never been super scheduled. I don't like to keep it that way, and personally, journaling is something that I just like to do every once in a while whenever I feel like it. For this month, I decided to create a 1-line-a-day spread. That way it gets me writing down something every day. However, it's only 1 line and not very intimidating. And if I feel the need to expand on my point, I can always create a journaling spread further on whenever I feel like it. At this point in my bullet journaling process, it was quite late, and although I was still having fun and the time wasn't affecting me in that way, I did create plenty of inconsistencies in this spread, and I'll point them out to you as we go. The first of which is actually this habit tracker. You can see that I wrote down the days of the week in a vertical manner, and if you see the habits that I've created for myself for this month, it actually doesn't align up with the way that I would actually fill this spread out. Instead, I should have put the days of the week horizontally at the top because I do fill out the spread vertically. The second inconsistency would be that I started the week on a Monday because, again, I was tired, so I just thought, oh yeah, days of the week, Monday through Sunday, but the first actually starts on a Friday, so that doesn't make sense in this spread. However, I still like the way I set it up. Basically, I wrote 8 to 9, including spaces in between each number on the left-hand side of the spread. That's going to be for each hour of the day, including half hours. The spread takes heavy inspiration from calendar blocking, and essentially that's exactly how I'll fill it out with different colors. And I also added a weekly tasks section at the top of the right-hand page. And that's the last of my spreads so far. I decided to refrain from creating the rest of the weekly spreads. That way I can create journal spreads and brain dumps and to-do lists as needed. And here's a flip through of my spreads thus far, the start of 2020 as well as the beginning of January. So far, I'm already really enjoying and appreciating the creative flexibility that I have making these spreads, as well as the maxed out flexibility and functionality I'll be able to get from these spreads. I hope this gave you some inspiration to throw away that pressure that we put on ourselves to create something that looks perfect or aesthetically pleasing, and helps you gain a feeling of freedom in your spreads and the creative paths that you take to make your own bullet journal. If you happen to create or take inspiration from any of the spreads that I've created today, please feel free to tag me on Instagram. It will be linked down below. Thank you guys so much for taking your time out of your day to watch this. I hope you guys have a great day, a great night, or whenever it is that you're watching this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!